Welcome to HortTube. My name is Jim Putnam. This is the July garden checklist video. I do one of these each month, just going over some of the things that I'm doing in my landscape or garden, things I've learned over the years to do or sometimes even more importantly, not do certain times of the year in your garden. I live in Raleigh, North Carolina, Zone 7B. This is a little 2/10 of an acre lot, and I've been re-landscaping it pretty extensively. There's a playlist on the channel called New House if you want to go back and see how far this has come along. And so we're going to just stroll around this space today and show you some of the things I will or won't be doing in the month of July. So let's talk about some of the things I'm doing in this landscape during July or avoiding doing in July. Right here at the end of June, I have remulched this entire landscape. So as we walk around this circle right here, and I'll show you some of the things I'll be thinking about during the month of July, you'll see this is triple shredded hardwood mulch. Didn't put down a very thick layer, but I went in here, weeded it and remulched it and kind of regained control. I talked about in the June video that you could really lose control, and that can continue into July with weeds, especially if you have Bermuda grass and other aggressive weeds. Of course, this is the time of year crabgrass just goes, from this big to this wide really, really quickly. So I got the weeds under control, got mulch down, and the mulch is going to help keep the roots cool on all of these flowering things, and also maintain some moisture here. And then again, that weed control is important as well. Knowing what you have in the landscape during the summertime is important. Your summer flowering annuals and perennials, you can do some cutting on during the summertime. You can deadhead them and fill them out wider, make them bloom more. So knowing the things that bloom all summer is kind of important. I'll show you some of those things as we go around. Other pruning considerations as we get toward July, things like azaleas you would no longer want to prune. In the month of July, it's almost too late because they've already started to set their flower buds for the next spring. So again, knowing what you have and then being able to look those things up. I have videos on my channel for most woody ornamentals and would give information on when to prune them. Things like your big leaf hydrangeas, as the flowers fade over here, they can be deadheaded. You can just cut them off right behind the flowers. This one, Dear Dolores, kind of fades to a decorative color for a month or two, so I just leave it like it is. But again, they can just be deadheaded, right up under the flower. This Agapanthus right here, this is a repeat flowering Agapanthus. I can come down here and as these flowers fade and cut them off and end up with new flowers up here. I don't want them to come to seed up on the top of the plant. So again, pruning wise, you kind of need to know what you have sometimes. Things like this Laurapedulum, this is another early spring flowering plant. I just did some pruning on it. I took about 6 feet off of the top of it back in May. Regenerative pruning like this, where you're really pruning a plant very hard, I'd get those things done by the middle of July. So if you have hollies that you wanted to take down, ligustrum, anything that you really wanted to make quite a bit smaller, that needs to be done sooner than later. We're kind of at this midpoint, tipping point for a lot of things in a calendar, in a gardening calendar, where if you do something past about mid-July, frequently you just don't have enough time for the plant to reestablish itself and protect itself going into winter. I do a lot of planting right through the summer, and I know a lot of you won't do a lot of planting during the summer. I have a video on my channel about my #1 summer pruning or planting tip or something. It's just prune. Pruning is the key to summer planting. Something like this laurel that is just a big, beautiful plant that I'm adding to this landscape. If I plant this plant in July, you see how much growth it has up on the top of it. When I plant it, it's going to get the roots are going to be damaged on it, and it's not going to be able to support all of the growth that's on the top of this plant currently. So I put this plant in the ground, and then I take about 8 inches off the top of it with a pair of pruning shears. That's the shortcut on that video. If you want to, you can go back and watch that video, but that's it. Prune the plant, and that will kind of correct that imbalance of the roots getting smaller. The top needs to get smaller as well. Also, during the summer when we're planting, we actually tend to overwater things more than underwater. And some of you will laugh at that because you probably have planted something and just forgot about it and it died the other way. But more often than not, people actually love plants to death. And if I put this plant in the ground And I let it wilt and wilt and wilt every afternoon, and I come home and water it. I emergency water it, emergency water it. What will eventually happen is this plant will stop demanding water because it will shed some interior leaves. It'll just kind of shut itself down. And then I continue to emergency water it like I got in that pattern, and I end up overwatering it. And so again, most plants die from overwatering or being loved to death in those types of situations. So that's how I go about summer planting. One thing about shopping for plants this time of year, the garden centers are probably flipping out older, some of their stock, thinking about getting in more fall things, not having to maintain so many things during the summertime. And so there may be discounts on shrubs. Whether you want to plant them or not, you can grab them and then save them to plant till the fall. Probably deals on annuals and flowering perennials. We still have a lot of time left. You can put those things in the ground, get lots of pollinators into the landscape in the garden during the rest of the summer and early fall. And also the other thing is you might want to ask them what would bloom in the fall in your area. So you can add those things to your landscape so you can extend the color. So things like asters. For us in the South, we can grow Camellia sasanquas would be something you could add to your garden that would bloom in the fall. Real quickly, let's talk about containers. Containers can become kind of high maintenance as the summer goes on. They seem like a great idea in the spring, and then sometime around mid-July, they typically get a little bit root bound and can be super, super needy for water. If you're going out of town and you've got something that's just constantly demanding water, you can prune those things a little bit, shear those things off just a little bit to have them use a little less water. That's something I will do on these container flowering things. The things that flower all summer, you gotta be careful that it's not something that just flowers once and it's done. But the things that you put in containers that flower all summer, they can get pruned occasionally. And then they will use less water. The other option you have is to upsize the container. So frequently, when I used to do my own hanging baskets, I don't have a front porch on this house yet, but when I did my own hanging baskets, I would do my hanging baskets in 10-inch baskets. And then about mid-July, I would actually take those baskets and replant them into a larger basket size. And that additional soil, additional place to root out, kept them fresh looking. And they required way less water the rest of the summer. So that's one technique, is just upsizing your hanging baskets, upsizing your containers to keep them fresh looking for the rest of summer. You can fertilize them. You won't hear me talk a whole lot about fertilizing on this channel. I fertilized this entire landscape that you're going to see in this video with probably a half rate of organic fertilizer. What I've really done here is I've added compost, I've added hardwood mulch several times now. I added wood chips at the beginning of this project, and so all of this organic material breaking down is what's feeding my plants. I'm not over fertilizing these plants at all. And that may be one of the number one questions I get on the channel. How often do you fertilize? I need to fertilize. I got to go home and fertilize. I need to fertilize now. I just don't. Containers are a different story though, because containers are self-contained, and obviously, and I do fertilize these again. So they've been fertilized once, and sometime in early July, I'm going to go through all of these containers and refertilize them. Fertilize them with whatever you want to. Typically, I'll just use an Espoma plant tone or something like that in my containers, and I just kind of cover the tops generously, and then that's it. But just twice a year. I do think people over push plants. I will go out into other landscapes and see that other people's annuals and perennials are a little ahead of mine, that fertilize a little more. But mine will still be looking great well into, mine won't burn out. September, October, the things in this yard are still going to look fresh because I haven't just really tried to push them and push them and push them. A couple of maintenance things that I do during the summertime. I've got bees literally buzzing in my ear back here on the salvia this morning. I talked about deadheading already, just to kind of control water use on plants. So in containers, in hanging baskets, pruning these things back a little bit. On the annuals that I have in the ground, I will occasionally do a little bit of pruning on them to just make them bigger, better, fuller. You'll go through stages where, something like the salvia will come out and go into full bloom, and then they'll kind of slow down a little bit. When they go through that slowdown, typically I'll shear them a little bit. I don't do it all at one time though. I'll only take a few down at the time because I don't want to take away this nectar resource from all of these pollinators, and I'll get a close-up in here eventually and show you. This is just so many pollinators on these. So I don't take them all away at once, but I do a couple times every summer reduce the height on a lot of these flowering things. In terms of watering, when we get toward midsummer and it's super hot outside, your shrubs will require less water than you think. The established shrubs are pretty good at shutting themselves down and not requiring a lot of water, and I don't want to push them. And so that goes again to that fertilizing thing. If you're fertilizing and watering shrubs in the middle of summer, you're pushing them at a time that they kind of go into a little bit of a heat dormancy, is how I would describe it. Your flowering things like this, though, I want to keep them blooming. I want to keep my Shasta daisies over there, my salvias and my celosias and pentas and angelonias. I want to keep these things blooming, and so they will require me to water them. I've got a drip irrigation system in the ground. I actually haven't finished setting it up at this point, and so I'm doing hand watering on these flowering things. This mulch that I put down this week will go a long way to reducing the amount of water that I'm having to use. But generally speaking, I will let these things tell me a little bit when they need water. It's super easy to overwater them, even these flowering things during the summertime. You can either dig down with a finger and check, or again, just let them wilt. Usually there's a canary in the coal mine kind of a situation where I've got these Shasta daisies over here that kind of let me know in the afternoon when they're wilting. They're kind of the first thing to go. Once they start to wilt, I'll start to look through the other known things that need water on an almost daily basis. Let's jump over to the vegetable garden. I've got video on my channel about desuckering tomatoes, and I wasn't very good at taking my own advice this year. I did early on and got them vining properly through these cattle panels. But more recently, I've kind of lost control. I was out of town for a while and have lost a little control of the tomatoes. They still look great, but I should have done some more suckering on them, and you can go back and look at that video on my channel. But it's basically the vine splitting into multiple vines that I try to avoid. I want to just kind of keep one, the single plant vining through. These are not so much that anymore, but they're fantastic, and they're full of flowers and they're full of fruit. So I'm still going to get plenty of fruit. Make sure you're picking your fruit. If you get in here close, right here, I've got lots and lots of jalapenos that are almost ready. There's a bee sleeping under that leaf right there, which is kind of cool. The next plant over here, you can see all these jalapenos I have. Make sure you're picking them as they're ready. If the plant thinks it seeded itself, it will slow down and stop. I got the rest of my cool season vegetables out of the garden this past week. I let them come to seed, and then I collect the seed on them. That allowed some new space over here, and I kind of highly recommend this, that you don't plant your entire summer vegetable garden at one time. There's still a little bit of open space here or there in this vegetable garden space. I don't have everything. I do have the tomatoes in straight rows just because it makes sense for those cattle panels. The rest of this stuff just kind of goes in random, really. I mean, we're not farming a 40-acre farm here, so we don't need a tractor to harvest it, so it doesn't necessarily need to be in straight lines. But these peppers were planted, maybe a month and a half ago at this point. Eggplants just went in, okra back here, cucumbers have something to climb on. But again, I like succession planting. Leave a little bit of space so you can go back and grab something else or start some additional seeds. It will extend your harvest into the fall. Time to be thinking about your fall garden. So if you're going to plant lettuce and broccoli and cauliflower and spinach, whatever you want to add to your fall garden, it's time to be thinking about that. It's a little too early to be seeding. You'll see videos on my channel in August. I'll be seeding those things sometime mid-August probably, and they won't go in the garden though until late September, sometime in there when the nighttime temperatures cool off. But I would go ahead and get those seeds. And so if you're at a garden center or you order online, I would go ahead and be shopping for your lettuce seed, shopping for your fall vegetable seeds at this point. And other than that, one other thing, I've got potatoes, if you're following the channel, I put potatoes in grow bags back here along this fence. The foliage is fading now, and so it is time to flip these over and see if we've got any, hopefully we've got some treasure in these bags, and we'll find that out during the month of July. That's when I'll be harvesting those. If you followed my channel for any length of time, you know I very rarely talk about turf, but I've got Zeonzoysia in this front yard, in that little spot in the backyard that you saw. I sodded them last summer. There's a video on the channel for that. I am a big proponent of less lawn, and if you have less lawn, you tend to have a better lawn because you can put the energy into that smaller space, the time and energy. Make sure, especially important during the summertime, that your blade is sharp and that you're making clean cuts. After you cut the grass, you can go and pull up a blade and make sure it just has a clean cut on it and it's not ragged across the top. During the month of July, I would mow at the high rating for the type of turf that you have. And so if you have fescue, that's going to be probably the highest setting on your mower for your fescue. And for something like this Zeonzoysia, I'm mowing it about 2 inches high. I could keep this probably less than 1.5 inches pretty easily, but I'm keeping it 2 inches high during the month of July just because I can protect, I can put a little bit of buffer between the sun and the roots. And I find if I scalp it too much this time of year, golf courses are able to mow super, super low because they mow almost every day. So that's something, a piece of information you may be missing if you're trying to maintain a super low lawn. If you're only doing it once a week, you'll scalp it off and then the sun can really do damage to the roots. Like I say, again, the golf courses are just mowing and mowing and mowing every day, and they're able to keep, they're never scalping it. And same thing on your skin. You know, during the winter time, you know, my skin gets super white from being inside more, and I come out and I burn super easy. Same thing happens on your turf. Over a course of a week, the grass that's right along the ground is no longer acclimated to the direct sun. So be careful cutting it off too much and mow it at the highest setting. It needs about 1 inch of water a week, and I will typically just water this once a week pretty heavily. I did really good prep on this, so there's compost underneath it that was tilled in, and so I just haven't had to do as much watering just because the prep was very good. Again, I get that most people won't be installing a lot of things during the month of July, and they'll just be doing maintenance in the garden. Again, keeping the ground covered with mulch, keeping it weeded, not letting those weeds get just absolutely out of control. This is a butterfly bush here that is just coming into flower. What I know about butterfly bushes is this thing will come into full flower, and then it'll kind of start to slow down a little bit on me by middle August, and I'll actually do a little bit of pruning on it. I'll cut it back and it'll flush back out and rebloom again. Same thing I'm talking about on those annuals, you know, and summer flowering perennial things. Sometime a little bit of regenerative pruning will just put it back into full flower again later in the summer. But again, not doing them all at one time. Make sure you're keeping notes. July is probably going to be the peak time for all of the annual flowering things that I have out here in the landscape, and I want to kind of go through and just kind of grade them. You know, say I have all the tags, I have everything written down, and I can kind of go through and just give everything a grade. Would I want to put these pentas back in this space again? Would I want to put this, you know, this particular salvia back in again? You know, and by doing that, you know, I'll pick the 60% that are winners and the 40% I don't want, and then next year try some new things. And you know, year over year, that will really pay off in having the things that are just right for that space every year. So note taking, super important. Get out and enjoy some public gardens. Summertime is everything is opening back up, and make sure when you're doing your, you know, whatever vacations and that kind of thing, look at the landscapes as well and take notes. Thank you guys for following along with the channel. Don't forget to subscribe, hit that little bell notification to be alerted when I upload a new video, and I'll be back in August with another one of these checklist videos. Thanks for watching.